The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back, in case you're wondering, with George Case. And George is here as our bunch of his panelists. How are you, George?
Just fine, thank you.
Good. We've got a full house. Let me introduce everybody right off the bat. We've got Ronnie Rabinovitz. Good morning, sir.
Hi, Ralph. Hi, George.
Chad Rubin.
Hello.
David Hubler.
Hi, guys.
Again, George Case III. And I hope I'm not forgetting anybody.
That's I am, Ralph.
Oh, yes, Gabriel Schechter, our guest. My God.
He's our guest. You can't forget him.
I will never forget him, as a matter of fact.
No matter how hard you try.
And, boy, I try. Oh, it's terrible.
You're very trying, Ralph. Okay, we're here all week.
This is your second week in a row. George wasn't here last week. It was Easter. I was confused. I didn't realize that you were booked on April 1st. You are. And now we've got George and you back. Before I get to your interaction on Sabre, George and Gabriel, I'd like to go around the room and start with Chad Rubin and get you guys' reaction to the first week and a half or so of the 2018 baseball season. So, Chad Rubin, you're the man.
My first thing is it's great to have baseball back, even if it's in this cold weather climate.
Right?
Surprised at how some of the powerhouse teams are struggling out of the gate, like Cleveland and the Dodgers having trouble scoring runs. It's a little surprising. I know it's only a week, but a week can mean a lot, going forward.
Okay. Ronnie Rabinovitz. Ronnie? Hello. Okay, did I get cut off from everybody?
No,
I'm here.
No, we're here.
Okay. Then let's go with Gabriel Schechter, please.
Well, I see even more home runs and even more strikeouts than ever, and I think we better get used to that. I think some of the front runners are a little surprising. The Mets and Pittsburgh, but I noticed the bottom dwellers have seized on last place early. And I think, Miami, Cincinnati, San Diego, Tampa Bay look pretty clear-cut bad teams. And I think they're in for long seasons. I think Houston's going to win over 100 games again. I think they're loaded. Their starting rotation is so good that a guy like Brad Peacock, who was 13-3 last year, can't even make the rotation. So I think they're the scariest team out there.
Okay. George Case III.
Well, I agree with a lot of Gabe's, analysis of what's going on so far, and I just wanted to mention, Ralph, I guess you're really happy with the Mets. I mean, leading the NL East. I mean, with a 6-1 record, I think it was the first week. So I mean, that's terrific. And our other gentleman, Chad, I guess he's happy with the Twins, and Ronnie, if he's with us, but the Dodgers are struggling a little bit off the gate. But last year
they're off the gate right now.
So, I always feel that it's so early. I mean, 1 week out of a 162-game schedule does not make a season. But on the other hand, teams do like to get a good start. And, with Ralph and your loyalty to the Mets, I think you've got to be very happy.
Happy with the Mets and kind of happy with the Giants, given that they're in a position to hang in there until their two starting pitchers come back. They've both been hurt. One is due back on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. And McCutchen broke out yesterday for the Giants, so I thought that was nice. And Al Blumkin's not here, but his Pirates are off to a terrific start, and I'm happy for him because because it's unexpected. And I talked to him the other day. He's almost getting in a what-if mood. What if they could keep it together? And so it's nice. Spring is eternally hopeful, as they say. David Hubler, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Well, from my perspective, the Yankees seem a bit lethargic. Perhaps it's the cold weather. I mean, I've never remembered a opening day that was snowed out in New York. It's happened elsewhere, Cleveland, places like that. I imagine even up in Boston they've had one or two of those. But it's so rare in even March 30th or 31st to have a snow out in New York. That may be why they started off 4-0 and then they wound up losing the next four. So it's hard, but it's hard to make it any kind. I just think they're playing a little lethargically. I watched yesterday's game against the Orioles, which they won, and they didn't seem to have. Well, of course, they were coming off a 14-inning game the night before, which they lost. So you could understand them being a little lethargic the next morning. But I'm convinced they're going to be in there toward the end. They've got too many good horses. I'm sorry that they've had so many injuries early on. I mean, Sabathia right off the bat pitched well, and now he's got that 10-day. He's on a 10-day DL, and a couple of their younger guys, and of course, Greg Bird. Poor Greg Bird. He can't get a break for anything. This poor guy goes from one injury to another. He's the Nick Johnson of 2016, 16, 17. I mean, the poor guy. And same position, too, interestingly enough. No one Bird is not going to be another Lou Gehrig.
No.
Playing game. But I would love to see him come back and really have a good season.
Well, I'd love the same for Hicks. Hicks keeps getting...
Yeah, Hicks, too, of course. Yeah, he's due back very soon.
Yeah, I wonder what those two guys could do if they could stay healthy for the full year.
Oh, yeah. When Bird is in there, he hits. And he's a terrific fielder, but he's always having these foot and leg problems.
Ralph, speaking of coming back from injuries, how about Michael Conforto coming back a month or two early and hitting a home run in his first game?
That was nice. And Lagares makes a throw that was right on the money that gets to save the game. For the first time in 2 or 3 years, their pitching seems healthy, and they added Frazier.
That's the whole key for them.
Right.
If any 3 or 4 of those pitchers stay healthy all year, then they're dangerous.
It's basically the same as our crew at the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. We have a running DL going. Chad's been on it for a while. Ronnie's been on it for a while. Nice to have both of you guys back. Just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Last year, and you're both an addition, obviously, to this. And health is paramount in baseball. Health is paramount in life. So let's keep that going. Speaking of that, our comrade on Comfortably Zoned, Mark Littell, is in the hospital, and whatever it is you do, if you want to pray, give good vibes, good thoughts, hoping
you got it.
Okay. He says
Absolutely.
to the effect, his head is okay, his heart is okay, but his arteries suck. So, whatever that means, I'm thinking about you, country. Went well. Better today, at least. I haven't forgotten anybody. Let's go to Gabriel and George. You guys worked on a project a while back, and why don't you tell
Go, George.
Okay, well, here's the thing. I've got some ties with Cooperstown, and Gabe, of course, has been up there with the Hall of Fame, and I was fortunate because I spoke at a couple times up there when I was the executive director of Sabre, and had some visits with Gabe at the time, and some of the people I knew up there at Cooperstown, and I've always enjoyed going up there because I love baseball and baseball history, and Gabe has certainly been a very, very key player in that, in his knowledge and working with Sabre. So it's always been fun for me, and I hope that Gabe can talk a little bit about his Sabre background.
First, tell us what Sabre is about, George, because there are...
Okay, well, Sabre is the Society for American Baseball Research, and it's an organization of baseball, people that love the game. Quite a few love the statistics, the history of the game, and it's just people that are associated with baseball, and a lot of authors, writers, former players are in the organization, and I was the executive director of Sabre for 2 years, 2002 to 2002. Spoke at a meeting up in Cooperstown. They also have a Cooperstown chapter. And then a couple of years ago, our DVD was honored by the Hall of Fame. Bruce Markison with the Hall of Fame Film Festival, and our DVD was honored by that. So, I have a very strong relationship with Cooperstown, and really always enjoyed going up there and meeting with the people. But what I don't go is in the middle of the winter time, because as Gabe was talking about the huge amounts of snow, I love Cooperstown in the summer and the fall. It's beautiful. Yeah. It's a gorgeous town. But in the winter time, it's a little bit brutal.
Okay, I interrupt you one more time for clarification. Your DVD, I know it. Everybody here knows it. What's it about?
Well, the DVD, it's called Ball Field to Battlefield and Back, from FDR to JFK, and it's really an accumulation of color footage and narration by my dad and Mickey Vernon during their Major League playing careers. And it's an inside look at baseball. It's not game footage. It's really the life of Major League ball players, what a lot of fans never see. Batting practice, pregame promotions, just horsing around in the dugout, clubhouses, and being, having fun with the game that they all love. And that's what the DVD is all about. And I've been very, very happy with the so many comments that people have bought the DVD. It's $30. It can be obtained from me, Thomas Baseball at Verizon.net. And, I'll be happy to, talk and share with that. And I've also had the opportunity, because of the DVD, to speak quite a few times to people and groups that are interested in World War II era Major League Baseball.
Now, what makes you qualified specifically, for those out there that don't know, is that your dad, George Case Jr., was a longtime major leaguer and the star of the DVD.
Well, the fact is, Ralph, my dad had the foresight to really take the film. He had a little 8mm home movie camera, and that was his hobby. And I think I've mentioned before, he used to bring the camera and the projector and the screen home at the end of the season. And when I was a little boy, I'd be sitting there in the living room, and my dad said, "Well, we're going to see the baseball pictures." And I'd say, "Daddy, we have to watch these again?" And, the fact is, I didn't realize at the time until much later, the historical significance of those, that footage. And later, when my dad had it converted into some sound, I used to tell him, I said, "Dad, we've got to identify who a lot of these players are. People are going to know who Gehrig and DiMaggio and Feller and Williams, who they are. But for, the Jimmy Foxes, the Lefty Groves, the Lefty Gomez's and that caliber player, who were legendary players, for a lot of people are certainly not familiar with the way they looked during their playing careers."
Yeah. Now, you had Lou Gehrig and Lefty Grove on your DVD?
Well, Lou Gehrig, yeah, we used it as the cover because my dad was on the field in July 4th, 1939, when Lou Gehrig gave his farewell address, and so
my mom was in the stands.
Yeah, and I remember you telling me that, and that was the day that my dad always remembered, and the picture I have in my office of my dad standing behind Lou when Lou was about ready to give his speech, and it was a very historic and a very poignant moment in Major League Baseball history.
Wow.
Nice. I'm sure he remembered that always. That was something.
Well, he did, and he used to tell me, he'd say, all the players were there with tears in their eyes because Lou was so widely loved and respected by, players on both sides of the diamond. I mean, the Yankee players obviously loved him as a teammate, but the opposing players loved him for the respect and the ability that he had, to play the game, and the fact of his 2,130 consecutive game streak. I mean, that was an amazing. I mean, he'd go out there and play regardless of his physical condition, and he was, just a tremendous human being.
I want to note something with that. That record was broken, and I think, this is just my personal opinion, I wonder if you guys agree with me, I think that Ripken breaking that record was almost selfish in a way, because he played at times when he should have been on the bench. He played just for the sake of playing. I don't think Gehrig, when he was playing, it wasn't something that was talked about. He just played every day.
Ralph,
I have to disagree with you there.
There were a few times. Go ahead, George. We're going to give the same answer. Go ahead.
No, that was David going to mention. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was there. I wasn't. I was by accident purely. I was there the last game of the streak. The next game he did not play. And as a diehard Yankees fan who loved beating up on the Orioles, I have to defend him because there. First of all, we've all talked about how in Gehrig's era there were long trips out west and days off, and they'd play Sunday and they wouldn't play till Thursday because they were on the train. It's not that way now. Playing every day for 162 games a year is an incredible feat for 1 year, and Ripken did it with a lot of humility. He never he played the game very much like I imagine Gehrig did, because I never saw Gehrig play, but he never went around trying to advance his streak. He never really talked about it. He was more interested in playing as a team. And so I don't. And of course, as I said, I mean, they didn't have that many days off. A day off here and there, but nothing like the way the old 16-team league did. So I don't think you can put any kind of blame on him, on Ripken, for that.
Also, Ralph, there were many times when Gehrig was injured. He had problems with lumbago, and he would bat lead off, he would bat, and then he would be taken out of the game. So there were actually conscious efforts to extend his streak.
I didn't know that. I didn't think the streak was even in his head, really.
There was,
and I think Gabe's right. I mean, he did play. Lou was playing every game, so the streak kept going. But there were times, absolutely, what Gabe was saying, where Lou would start a game, as a leadoff hitter or whatever, to get that game in the books, and then he'd be taken out. But he was often injured. He did play with broken bones, and some people even said that they feel that the onset of ALS might have been a result of him being beamed a couple times. So, you really don't know, but he did play, and I know personally, for me, I was happy that if somebody was going to break Lou's record, and it was Ripken, because Cal was a great, asset to the game. He always stood around and signed autographs until the last person was there, and he was just a throwback to the kind of
he was
that Lou Gehrig was, during his career.
I remember reading one of the books one of the many books about the Yankees I've read, and of course, as I said, I never saw Garrett play, but it was very interesting that with the onset of his illness, the Yankee infielders were the first to spot that something wasn't right with him. Half a step. Now, the average fan wouldn't notice that, but the players who were playing with him on a daily basis could see that, there was just something that wasn't clicking the way it used to.
That was the year before you're talking about, 1938.
His last year.
Yeah, when he hit under 300. Jonathan Ike,
he really started
in his
to slow
book
down, and what we're talking about, Gabe and David, the players themselves, they recognized that they didn't know what was wrong, but
that's right.
They did realize that something had changed in Lou, and it was more than just the aging process. There was something that was physically wrong with him.
Jonathan Ike in The Luckiest Man makes a good case that it probably the onset was in 1937, I think.
Right.
And it was fairly noticeable in 38.
Right. And then in 39, Lou himself took himself out of the lineup. He told McCarthy, he said, Joe, I just can't contribute. I'm not helping the ball club anymore. And Joe did not want to take him out. But, Lou insisted, and that was the last game he played was April 30th in 39 at Yankee Stadium. And talking about Saber earlier, Saber researcher, told me, I didn't even know it. He said, George, your dad caught the last ball that Lou Gehrig hit in his major league career. It was a fly ball to center field.
Wow. Great trivia.
That's a good one. Yeah. That's a good one. There's a story about Ripken. When his streak almost ended, there was a brawl at Camden Yards in 1992. They played the Mariners, and Mike Mussina hit Bill Hasselman, who charged the mound. There was a massive brawl. And I actually asked Ripken about this later. And he ran to the mound like everybody else, and just as he got there, somebody clipped his knee, and he just wrenched his knee so badly the next morning he couldn't walk. And he got all kinds of treatments. So he worked on him all day, and he got into the lineup. And no doubt, Gehrig did the same thing.
Right.
Just the daily wear and tear on the body necessitates it. Much less an injury, you don't have time to rest. So, it's incredible willpower to do what they did.
Yeah, Gabe, that's a very interesting story. I never heard that about Ripken. I didn't realize that might have jeopardized his streak. Crazy.
Yeah, I was at that game, too. It was quite the brawl.
Were you? Yeah. It was a big brawl, huh?
Well, the techniques, of course, have improved in terms of training room techniques to bring players back faster. I'm sure in 38 and 37, they didn't. I know they didn't have the kind.
No, I can guarantee you they didn't, David.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
they might stick themselves in a whirlpool, and that was about it. And
right.
If they had pulled muscle, the trainer would rub some liniment on it, and that was it.
That's right.
Hey, Ronnie Rabinovich is here, and he is our expert on Jackie Robinson, a friend of Jackie when he was a little boy. If I'm not mistaken, Jackie went to your bar mitzvah. Am I correct?
He was invited. He never came.
Oh.
But he was invited. Yeah.
Well, I saw some pictures of him socializing with your family and what have you.
Right.
You guys were very close.
See, if I had known that, I would have invited him to mine. I never thought of that.
Well, I had the foresight to invite Pumpsy Green to my bar mitzvah because I figured he's the guy that needed a little niceness. It happened to have been in 1959, and that was the year that he was called up by the Dodgers. And I thought maybe he'd make a good bar mitzvah. I don't think my
Ralph, his first name was...
How many people are coming to this thing? It's not unlimited.
Ralph, his first name was Elijah. Did you save his chair for him?
Yeah. Elijah Punchy Green.
Wait, you haven't told us whether he came or not. Did he come to your bar mitzvah?
Who knew? Yehuda McAfee was there. I know that. We see and Shlomi Bornstein. Shlomi was there.
Very nice.
George, who came to your bar mitzvah?
I went to a lot of bar mitzvahs, but I never had one. But I tell you what, you guys have some wonderful names and remembrances of your bar mitzvahs. That's wonderful.
Hey, do you guys remember from the 50s the commercial, the bumblebee tuna girl, a little girl, and she went to my bar mitzvah. I lived next door to her.
Oh, really?
Top that, you schmendricks.
You could have served tuna fish. I mean, it's not trafe. You could have.
I know this is going to seem weird, but Marty Rose, who's the podcaster, and I grew up together, Jackson Heights. He went to my bar mitzvah. So there is
that's nice.
Little connection. I want to ask you guys this. Do you think that the Gabriel Kaplan, the move that he made at, I guess it was the third game of the year where he went out and he took out a pitcher without another pitcher being warmed up, let alone
details.
Do you think it's possible that, and not just him, that a manager can do one stupid thing and lose his entire clubhouse for good?
My instinct is to say no, but this is Philadelphia we're talking about.
Now, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Man, that's supposed
do you resemble that remark?
I'm in the Philadelphia area. I understand what you're just saying. Right.
Okay.
I mean, they're known to be harsh. I mean, they booed Mike Schmidt.
That's right.
They booed Mike Schmidt.
They booed the Easter Bunny. Or Santa Claus or somebody in a parade. But give me examples of managers who have lost the clubhouse, so to speak. Anybody that your dad ever talked about? Any manager that wow, he just lost his team, or?
Well, I never heard of it. I never heard him talk about that. But I think back then it might have been different. But the players and the managers, they became fairly close. And I never recall, my dad ever having a harsh word about any manager. So I don't recall, any managers in thinking about it that ever lost the clubhouse over one particular, instance like you're talking about that happened in Philly. Sometimes I think over the years they might lose, the club if they've made either some bad decisions or they've done things that hurt the club, or maybe have made some kind of a comment to the press off the cuff and it got back to a player and the players, have something go into a revolt or whatever. That's happened over the years. I think it happened back in the 30s. I think there was a Cleveland manager that lost the
1940. Ossie Vitt was the manager. Yeah.
Really?
The players just revolted. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Because I remember reading about it. I didn't have any, personal, association with it, but I do remember recalling that incident. But I didn't know the year. It was 1940, right?
I think it was 40, yeah.
Okay.
The crybabies, they became known as the players who quit on them.
Right.
I know the Dodgers.
I've heard that managers are less autocratic now than they used to be, partly because the players make so much more money than they do. What's a $2 million guy going to tell a $10 million a year guy that's going to stick? And maybe that might make it more likely for a manager to lose his players if he suddenly appears like an underpaid idiot.
Hey,
well, that could be, Gabe. That could be. I mean, money has certainly changed the game dramatically, and you bring up a very good point because these are highly paid players, and the managers, they make a good living, but they certainly don't make the kind of money that the players are making. And there could be an instance where a player is going to say, hey, you know what? I don't even care what you say because I'm making 10 times more than you are.
Right.
I know the Dodgers didn't have a lot of respect for Charlie Dressen. I know there was a lot of
the Dodgers did.
Here.
Okay, that's. I wanted to find out about Jackie's injuries over the years. He remained pretty healthy. Am I correct?
He had a few injuries, but nothing too terrible. Right.
Okay. No broken bones or anything. Long stints on the DL.
No.
Which were very uncommon. DL, by the way, was very uncommon back in the day.
No. Right.
Right.
Play it out. But tell Charlie Dressen and what his wife chipped in with a little something that cost him his job when he was negotiating.
Right.
1 to 2 years. But I don't think he'd lose his team over that.
No.
What about Dressen? Did the players find?
Well, he made a lot of mistakes. They felt that he wasn't a very sharp manager.
Okay.
Didn't they have trouble with Bert Schotten too? And didn't he come back for about a year
yes,
at one point, and he refused to wear a uniform in the dugout?
Right.
I wonder.
Yeah, Brad Trickey brought him back.
Yeah,
that was in '47.
Yeah.
I think that's when Leo DeRocher was suspended.
In 47,
it was. Bert
Yeah.
Schotten, from my understanding, he had promised his wife he wouldn't put a uniform on again, and so he didn't. So he managed with a jacket on.
Ron, wasn't Walter Alston kind of disdained by the players when he took over?
Yes, he was.
As not knowing all that much?
Yeah, he was. Absolutely.
Well, if you want to talk about the Yankees were not thrilled to see Casey Stengel come on board.
Yeah.
They thought he was a clown.
Yeah, because he replaced Bucky Harris, I think, at the time, David. And, Bucky had just led the Yankees. They won the World Series in '47.
Sure.
And, all of a sudden, the new kid on the block is Casey Stengel, and a lot of players were not happy with that choice at the beginning.
No.
Of course, obviously, it worked out later, but, they were not happy at it.
Yeah.
Because he had a losing record as a manager. I mean, he managed, several Boston Braves. And
he was in the National League, right.
Yeah,
Yep.
and he had a losing record.
Sort of a Yankees version of Joe Torre.
But what was the headlines in the papers? What do you know, Joe, or something like that when he first got the job? I don't remember what it was, but they weren't happy to have him.
Any manager who follows a successful manager is going to have, it will raise doubts. Look at Aaron Boone. There was questions. Well, he's never managed at any league before, any level. So, how can you bring him in to replace Girardi? So, but you don't know what the clubhouse is like. That's the thing.
And, I can't answer naturally to what the clubhouse is like.
Right.
And no one can. That's why managing is so subjective. The success and failure of a manager, very, very difficult to judge who is really good. But I will say this, I don't know of anybody else who could have gotten the Yankees through the transition in 1951, Mantle coming in and DiMaggio going out. And maybe David Hubler can speak to that. if you would.
Well, that was the first year I ever saw a game, but I don't remember too much about, the inner workings of the club at the time. So I really can't speak to it.
All right, Gabriel.
Well, I can tell you one thing that that managers do, and this is just something that a lot of us know about. But they would often have they wouldn't let the press in for like 30 minutes after a game, and they did it maybe to hash out something with the players to keep whatever it is behind the clubhouse door. That's what they did. They didn't want writers and they didn't want other people coming into the clubhouse because there were things going on maybe that shouldn't be said.
Right.
And at the same time, there were people also that criticized, like Jim Bouton and a couple other writers, that were airing the dirty laundry in public with the books. So, I mean, there's things that go on inside a major league clubhouse that they would prefer not to let the public know about.
Okay.
That's true. That's true.
That's still true, yeah.
Sure.
Any predictions for this year? I'm going to go around the room. We talked about how the first week went, your impressions. Did this change any of your thoughts about how the rest of the year is going to go, Chad Rubin?
I'm still waiting for Acuna to come up for the Braves. I can't wait to see him. I think it's early to. I think it's a little early. I really want to see what happens with like Kershaw, with hitters hitting differently. Is it going to affect him as he gets older? Strasburg, is he going to have the year he had last year? Little things like that are what interests me.
All right, that's what you're looking forward to.
I'm very interested to see if this Shohei Ohtani can keep doing what he's done so far. I mean, in spring training, he looked like the next Clint Hartung, and now he comes out. He's got to win homers 3 games in a row. What's going on with this guy? Is he for real?
That brings up another very, very interesting question to me. Is how much can we judge spring training and spring training stats? Because every year when the bell rings, there are dramatic turnarounds in at bats, this, that, and the other thing. Does adrenaline, is that what's accounted for, or can we get anything from spring training, or does when opening day start? We have to reserve judgment.
I think we get more simply from seeing who plays, which players coming back from injuries are getting their time in, and the statistics from spring training mean less and less. The starters only take 1 or 2 at bats a game, and I don't think you can tell much anymore.
No, look at the case of Judge. He barely made the roster. And he went on and hit, 50? How many home runs did he hit last as a rookie? Yeah.
52, yeah.
52, right. And won the Rookie of the Year award. So, you can't really judge spring training.
You just never know. A hitter in spring training, he might just be working on his footwork or not even paying attention to where the ball goes. You can't assume anything from spring training except who's healthy and who isn't.
Right. I agree.
Right.
George, did your dad take spring training seriously, or
well, he took it seriously, but I think, and I agree with David and Gabe. I mean, they're trying to get themselves ready for the season. They're going to pace themselves, and my dad would be down there, and he'd be trying the best he could, but he's not going to live or die by his performance during spring training. And I think that's the way a lot of players are. They want to get themselves ready for the season. Because
a good example of that is
spring training. Really, it's the train. It's the results are negligible. I mean, I personally, as a former player and being around baseball all my life, I don't put any stock in spring training whatsoever. I mean,
look at Ryan Zimmerman. He didn't play in one spring training game this year.
Right. Yep.
on purpose. You know, he was working on some things and trying to get over an injury, but he knew he'd be ready when the bell rang.
That's what they want to do. They want to be ready when the season starts.
In the case of Ohtani, I saw Harold Reynolds' piece on him the other day, and he talked about in Japan he had a high leg kick, and he came out in March, and he was late on everything because of the leg kick. And over the course of the month, they got him to almost entirely drop the leg kick. And now he's in a hitting position when the ball is leaving the pitcher's hand instead of when it's 20 feet in front of him. And he's hitting the ball. Right. So that happens in March.
And they did that with on the Nationals. I've gone blank for a minute, but the big power hitter who's on Harper, right? Harper just stands there now. They pointed that out on a couple of games. He's not bringing his front foot forward. He's just using his power and his hips, and that's something they worked on in spring training.
Yeah. They also have these devices, teaching methods to change guys' stroke. What do they call it? Elevation quotient.
Launch angle.
Launch angle. Yeah.
Okay. That's the latest buzzword. Launch angle.
Right.
When we were kids, it was just called an uppercut.
That's right.
Right.
You don't hear the word hitch anymore. He had a hitch in his swing.
Yeah.
No, you don't hear that anymore. No.
Haven't heard that expression in a long time.
A long time.
But yeah, it was uppercut, and it's amazing. Aaron did not have a launch angle. Mays didn't have a
Well, they did. You just didn't know what it was.
Right.
I mean, they didn't have the electronics that they have today now to measure all this stuff. I mean, baseball has become the ultimate in statistics. There's nothing. Ted Williams preached that power uppercut. He said the ball from the pitcher is coming at a downward angle, and to make the best contact, you swing upward at the opposite angle.
Right. And Williams also, and Gabe, I think you've probably seen it, but I've seen some training videos and stuff that Ted did because he loved to talk about hitting. I mean, and he could talk all day and all night about it. And I'm sure he wasn't talking launch angles, but he was talking about that, what you're saying, if the ball's coming down and you're going to go back the other way. And he was not a big proponent of taking a long stride either. If you watch Williams hit, he would lift up his front foot, and that was basically it. And yet
DiMaggio the same way, right?
Right. And you see so many players. I mean, that's when I think sometimes, players get screwed up, to be honest with you, by somebody trying to screw up their batting stance. I mean, when you look at a Stan Musial, would you try to change Stan Musial's batting stance? I mean, no way.
Yeah.
But
go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
I think that, if a player's comfortable, if he performs, he's able to do something, that's fine. Now, what David's talking about, if somebody's got if he's lifting his leg or he's doing something that's hurting his timing, then they might try to change it. But on the other hand, one of the greatest hitters of all time, Mel Ott, had that high leg lift, and nobody was going to change him. That was just his style.
Yeah.
Sadahara O had that in Japan.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
Exactly. Very similar.
Practically brought his knee up to his chin from the films I've seen. And but the theory is, there's a theory, especially like in foul shooting in basketball. The less motion you make as you go to shoot the ball, the less chance there is of making a mistake. In other words, if you move your arms and your legs, every motion has to be repeated exactly the same to get the same result. So what you try to do is minimize the amount of motion.
Yeah. Golf swings are the same way.
Right.
One of the most amazing things I ever saw, I got a field pass one day. I watched Paul Molitor take batting practice, and I stood right behind the cage. It was unbelievable. He did not twitch a muscle until the ball was almost on him. And then he didn't move his legs. He just had the hip turn and the quick wrists and the bat, line drive after line drive, and he never moved an inch until the ball was on him.
No, it is incredible because there's those kind of players, Gabe, what you're talking about, a Molitor and some of these great hitters. I mean, that's what they do, and they work on that, and it's muscle memory. It's all the things that they do over and over and over again. And that's what a lot of times in spring training, they're trying to get their timing, and they're trying to do all these kind of things. They're not worried about whether they're going to have a 4 for 5 game or whatever it is. They might go 0 for 5, but if they're meeting the ball, if they're making contact, if they're doing what they want to do, then it's successful for them.
I agree completely, but I'm going to give you 3 names of guys who seem to have 20 different swings, that they had a different swing for a low outside slider and an low inside slider. And Rod Carew, Tony Gwynn, and Ichiro.
Yeah. Well,
they didn't repeat.
They're 3 great hitters.
No
question about it.
And they didn't repeat their swings. They adapted their swing to each kind of pitch.
Right.
So
I call your attention to the article about
approaches.
Ichiro. The Ichiro sort of a biography article in ESPN magazine, which really impressed me because he does the same thing day in and day out, no matter what the temperature, no matter what the weather is. He eats the same foods. He goes to the same restaurant every day. Everything is factored right down to the minute. Even in the middle of the winter, he goes out every day, takes his 500 cuts, hits 500 swings. He throws the ball to a friend, 500. I mean, everything is the same. It's incredible.
He's obsessed. It's an obsession with him, really.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And there is talk about, among his friends that really know him, what's this guy going to do when baseball
Yes. Yeah, they're all concerned about that.
In the article.
Yeah,
really worried about.
He'll go back to Japan and play till he's 60.
He could. Play a manager
he could.
or something.
Be a manager and pinch hit once a day.
Right.
Yeah, maybe that will get his urges, and what a tremendous adjustment it must make an athlete who his whole ego is in everything he does on the field, and that 1 year after retirement, a book should be written about how guys adjust to that first year out of baseball.
I think there was a book about that, Ralph, and I can't think of the name of it. Yeah, I think there was. I guess if you try to Google it or something, you might be able to find it, if you fool around.
I will, because that, how does someone do it? Like if they told you guys as writers, oh, well, you're too old now. You can't write anymore. That kind of thing. You got to find something else to do, and you would do that all your life, and now you can't do it. It's got to be.
Typos are like hanging curves. You have too many, you're going to be out of there.
And commas the same way. When right? When to take it out, and that's very difficult.
Speaking of commas,
if you get the commas right.
Yeah, I gotta point this out because it really bothers me. For some reason, I think it's AP's fault. For some reason, people are now putting a comma on the phrase or the clause just before the word because. In other words, John went to the store, comma, because he was hungry. I mean, all over the place, and there's no reason on earth for that comma.
I see that in my editing all the time.
Yeah, And you look at any book of grammar, there's no reason for it at all. It's a conjunction. It connects the two. Independent.
Strunk and White wouldn't hear of it. That's good enough for me.
Oh, me too. I have to delete them all the time when I'm editing people's copy.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
the quotation marks at the end of the whole thing, not before.
Before the period, you mean?
Yeah, after the period.
After the period, yeah. Well, the British style is to put them before, so that could be where that comes from sometimes. What do they know about English?
What the hell? I was going to say, what the hell do they know about English?
We need to send some teachers over there and show them around.
Yes.
I mean,
well,
yeah.
Ebonics.
I mean, they use a plural for government.
Contingency of people who speak Ebonics, and imagine Ebonics in Britain. Well, get down with your bad old self.
Jesus.
Different time. All right.
Enough British bashing.
Ralph, can I throw in a thought? Can I just bring one thing around full circle about Sabre? I wanted to give you the best quote I've heard about Sabre. And the organization has about 7,000 people now. It was founded in 1971, and it's grown and grown. My friend R.J. Lesh, a friend of mine from the Deadball Era Committee, he and I happened to attend the convention in Boston in 2002. For both, it was our first convention. And R.J. had the best quote ever afterwards. He said, "Sabre is enormously satisfying on two levels. First, it's great to see that there's so many people who care about this as much as I do. And second, it's great to see how many of them are further out there than I am." Right? I'm with my fellow extremists, but there's people who are worse off than I am.
I hadn't heard that before, Gabe, but that's true. I mean, it's amazing. When I was with Sabre as executive director, I mean, I was astounded by the minutia and the knowledge that some of these people had. I mean, I'd been around baseball all my life, and I knew it from a general point of view, but they could get into some of the stats and some of the instances that happened. They would tell you that it was 45 degrees on April 12th and third inning at Yankee Stadium. I mean, it was just incredible, the knowledge that they had.
Here's the kind of scary thing. This is one of my show-off moments from the library. I gave a library tour to 9 guys from St. Louis one time, and I met them down in the library public area and went down the line and introduced them and shook hands with all of them. And I get to the last guy, and he says, "I'm Albert Schweitzer." I said, "Albert Schweitzer? You mean the same as the left fielder for the St. Louis Browns in 1911? He said, "I must be at the Hall of Fame."
That's a great story.
Yeah, it is a great story. That's funny.
Oh, that Albert Schweitzer.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, that Albert.
You meant the Albert Schweitzer.
Exactly.
All right. Hey, guys, great show, as usual. Thank you for coming back, Gabriel. I hope
this is fun.
Yep.
If you can make Sundays a habit, we would be delighted. And David Hubler, George Case
it was a great.
Yep. Very enjoyable for me, everybody. Thank you.
Whose name is on the show, and Ronnie Rabinovich, Chad Rubin.
Thank you. Yep.
All right. Thank you all, guys, and
it was fun.
This week, and if you like our broadcasts, anybody out there, our offerings, please box up some lightly used children's books and take them to the Head Start program wherever you are. They need to develop a passion, and most of all, they need to get their noses out of the devices and start living life and again, and also become school ready. So get them some books. These are kids that need it perhaps more than other children in the community, and you'll do some good, and I'll know about it. I get vibes of stuff like that, so it'll make me feel good. I'd be appreciative. The name of the show, in case you're wondering, with George Case, and I'm Ralph Tycho, the weak link of it all, Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. See you next week, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, folks.